Welcome all to this special episode of IdentiPurpose. IdentiPurpose is a podcast that's coming up to a city near you. So IdentiPurpose is a podcast dedicated to changing your life for the rest of your life. Anyway, so IdentiPurpose is a combination of two words, identity and purpose. And so this podcast and this platform will help you to identify what is your identity and then what is your purpose. It is actually impossible to find your purpose if you don't know your identity. So that's why it's IdentiPurpose. And in the studio today, we have the founder of IdentiPurpose to tell us more about his vision and the mission he has for this podcast and platform. So welcome everybody to the platform, Uncle Sam. So Sam, welcome to IdentiPurpose platform. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
Amazing. It's good to have you on your own show. I'm just here to interview you and ask you about your plans with IdentiPurpose. So could you tell the viewers what is IdentiPurpose?
IdentiPurpose is basically two words together, identity and purpose. And this is sort of a program that's put together to help individuals figure out their identity and purpose. And of course, there's 5 questions in total, 5 life's most important questions that IdentiPurpose is sort of attacking and helping individuals uncover, discover, rediscover, or find out. Yeah. And that's really what IdentiPurpose is all about.
Amazing. And you said the 5 questions. I think that's the main heart of this special episode, is to identify those 5 questions and then invite the people into asking these questions and being intentional about them. So if I asked you what is the main focus of IdentiPurpose, what would your answer be to that question?
I think I personally have been through a journey of uncovering or discovering or finding out what the answers are to these questions are for me personally, for my own life. Okay. And that journey has been really hard. I think it was hard to find like resources, people to talk to. It was sort of like a very hard journey where it's like you don't even know where to begin. And trying to create a different experience for the next person, to say this was hard for me, but now I'm putting everything together, all the resources, the knowledge that I've sort of gained over time, and I'm trying to make the journey much simpler
for others.
Yeah, so IdentiPurpose is really simplifying the journey, because talking about these questions is not something completely new. Yeah, there's so many people that have talked about this. There are even people who are still talking about it today. Yeah, but I think the hard part is finding everything in one place where you just have like a seamless journey where you actually find out who am I, and then what's my purpose, how do I even start to pursue what my true passion, and all of those kind of questions, if that makes sense. That's what really the focus of IdentiPurpose is.
That's so good. Now I think the two greatest questions that most people have out there are, number 1, who am I? Yes. And number 2, what is my purpose? So let's before we even ask and answer the 5 questions, let's define IdentiPurpose at a deeper level. So when you say identity, what do you mean? And when you say purpose, what is that?
It's actually very interesting because when I began this journey was around 2018. I was, simply asking myself, who am I? Yeah. And the more and more I learned about identity, I found out that it's a very complex thing. And of course, as much as we want to think of it as an objective, word that has a definite meaning, people see the identity from different angles. Wow. But in short, when you look at the dictionary meaning, identity is the thing which you are, or what a thing is.
So that's a very vague definition, I suppose.
Exactly, because when you ask people, what are you? What are we?
Can I ask you that question actually? What are you?
You see? So it's a very important question, because when we talk about identity, we talk sort of like, so basically in my research so far, what I found out is that identity is sort of a term that has a lot of dimensions
Okay.
And so you have like a collection of things. So there's the thing which I am, which I am a human being. You understand?
So identity is not one single thing. It's not singular.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of dimensions to my identity. So there's the thing I do. There's personality. There's where I come from. There's origin. There's culture.
And all that affects your identity or contributes.
Of course. And but as we will uncover and look into it deeply, you'll find out that some things are more important than others. For example, how much weight does my name carry as far as my identity is concerned?
So can I ask you this? Primarily then, what in your case, as you think of identity, what's the first thing that comes first place? Maybe it's not your name or your nationality, but what is it that counts first and foremost?
So far as identity is concerned, I think before we even talk about who we are or what we think we are, we have to go back and ask a question: who even qualifies or has the right to define us?
Okay, that's a good question.
And you know, I give an example of a phone, right? You know, every new invention that was ever invented, the person, the inventor, the creator behind the idea came up and sort of introduced what that thing was, what it was intended for.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they even, you know, the inventors are the one who name whatever the creation they've created.
Right.
So in our case as human beings, it only makes sense for us to go back to the creator and ask a question: the person who made us, who does he say we are?
So you're saying identity is inseparable from the creator.
100%.
So the creator is one who defines identity, and then by extension, purpose.
100%. So of course we were created, so the person who created had an intention behind. So you know, when he created us, he sort of defines who we are. And you know, we are lucky because this is not something that we have to search for, or something that is like information that isn't accessible. So I'm trying to say the most important part of our identity is to know that which the person who created us says we are. That which he says we are is what we are, and that's who we are. All those other things only make sense within the context of who he said we are.
That is very deep. Or is it just me? It's very interesting. Because now I'm thinking, okay, I guess as humans, we're clearly very special, because when you think of this mic that we're using, it's called Shure mic, right?
Yeah.
Can we say it has identity?
Of course it does.
Oh, it does?
And the thing about identity is that identity is all about perspective. So,
but then the reason why I'm asking if it has identity is because I'm assuming identity must have a certain level of awareness to it, because the mic doesn't know it exists, therefore we can't say it has identity.
Well, I mean, for us as human beings, of course, we are different and special, and so we have awareness, and this is why identity even becomes more complex. Because, for example, which part of you is aware of you? So, for example, when you say James, who's saying James?
When I say James?
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah. Who's saying that?
Who?
Yeah.
James is having a conversation with himself.
You can even literally have a conversation with yourself. And so there's a part of us that is aware of us. And this is where sort of ego camps at.
So a part of us that is aware of us, is that part of our identity?
So all I'm trying to say is that we are beings which have been created in such a special way that
Very
we
complicated
sort of
people.
interact with the outside environment, but we can also interact with our own self, like internally, where you are aware of your own self. You are aware that you are. When you look at yourself, you can think about yourself. You can even have a conversation with yourself. So identity becomes complex because it's just not something that it's not something that we are given just for the sake of other people identifying us, but it's also something
for
that we have to be aware of ourselves. You understand?
Because it makes a huge
unlike
difference.
the example of the mic, because the mic doesn't even know it's a mic.
That's the thing.
It does not have conscious, but you have conscious. So be like beyond that. I know you. You know yourself.
So now this is why it's important. So if you don't know who you are, at some level you are just as the mic, which doesn't know what it is. So you see how dangerous that can become, not knowing who you are.
Well, it's you're not going to be exactly as the mic.
But I mean, in terms of usefulness and potential and whatever, like the mic can only be useful so much as far as we use it, right?
Oh no, okay. Now I agree with you in that regards, because as much as like I said, our most important part of identity is the part that is, God driven, because he's the one who created us and he says this is what you are. But beyond that, there's what people think we are. When I see you, I can identify as whatever. I can say you are my brother, or I can sort of give you an identity that makes sense to me, and that identity is usually sort of limited to my limitations, my understanding, my ignorances and knowledge. And so what happens is, if you don't know your own identity, you are run on the identity that you are given by the world, by the society, by the people who are close to you. So
they define who you are.
Exactly. Which may not
which
be
is
really
which is
what
not
you
even what's it called? If people define who you are, it cannot be there's a word for it. It's not English is failing.
It's not really who you are most of the time.
But I was trying to say it's not stable. It changes all the time, so it's not 100%, sustainable.
100%.
Because today they'll say you
may
are
be this to me and be that thing to another person. So your identity sort of changes depending on who you are dealing with. Yeah. So it's not stable, like you're saying. It's not consistent.
Consistent. That's the word that escaped my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is purpose then? We've defined identity. What is purpose?
Purpose is the thing
you are born to do.
You were created to do in context of human beings. Of course, when we think about anything else, objects, whenever they are created, whenever they are made, there's sort of an objective, a reason why they are created. Like this mic was literally created to sort of transmit sound and help in recording the sound, you understand?
Yeah.
That's the purpose of the mic. Chairs were made for the purpose that people can sit on them. So as human beings, understanding that we are not here by chance, we were created. There's a reason. There's sort of an idea or things that God had in mind to say, this is what I want human beings to do. But even more to a specific level, there's specific things he thought he wanted you to do. That's what purpose is.
Interesting. So as you're explaining, a question that came to mind is there anything in the world without purpose?
Absolutely not. So now here's the thing you need to understand when I say that statement. When we are ignorant, we may think that something does not have a purpose because we don't know. Mm-hmm. We are sort of thinking in the context of our own limitation. But the idea is, when you go back, look at it from the perspective of the creator, there's always a purpose. There are even things that today, if you go somewhere, and let's not even talk about human beings who are even way more complex. Yeah. They're sort of technology that has been made you've never interacted with. When you see that thing, you may not even think it has a purpose. But right. but if you find the person who made it or someone who has interacted with it, they'll tell you like, oh, actually this does X, Y, Z.
Wow. Okay.
So you understand that both identity and both identity and purpose are ideas that are heavily dependent on knowledge.
So this is why we're having this podcast and this platform.
Exactly.
To make that knowledge accessible. All the tools to know.
Exactly, because we have to have a conversation about these things.
Yeah.
Because most of the times, I think these are questions we ask ourselves, but we sort of are forced to push them away because they are it's like something that's very important, but at the same time really hard to navigate. Yeah. So the only way is if you think about it and you actually realize how important it is, but you don't know how to go around and about it, it becomes really stressful. And so it's easy to sort of push it away or assume something manageable. So there's a lot of people who are doing things that they think is their purpose, which is not actually their purpose.
So that's actually a very good place to transition into this. There are people who are watching or listening to this podcast right now. Yeah. And for the longest time, they've struggled to find their purpose. They've tried read books, they've tried watch videos, other podcasts. How, to that person who is watching, how can they begin or find their purpose?
So, before I answer that question, there's something that I want to say, and this is something that I have actually dealt with or like seen so many times. When people, say they want to know who they are, when people say they are interested or they want to know what their purpose is, they are not usually prepared for the cost. Like, knowing who you are, knowing your purpose has a cost. There's a price to pay.
What's the cost?
Number one, you need to understand that knowing your identity and purpose is a process. It's not an event.
You can't do it in one day.
It's hard to do in one day.
I'm sure possible?
It's possible, but you would have to put a heavy amount of resources in one place for it to be possible. And that is also dependent on you being able to process it in that amount of time. Because most of the time, identity is something that we have built over time in terms of like the false identity, which is built on ego. And we'll talk about ego maybe another time. But the whole idea is you cannot just demolish it in one day because you build it over life. People were telling you things about you and you believe those things. Now, if I come, even if I tell you who you are today, you just think you just, throw away everything you've believed over your life and just take the new identity.
It's like you've been living your whole life as a slave, let's say.
Exactly.
And then one day they come and say, did you know you're actually the son of the king?
Yeah, it's a transition. Yeah. Now it becomes a process. And now because it's a process, you need patience and now you need to be consistent. And it's like farming. More than it's like showing up and somebody figures out everything for you and they tell you who you are. So when people say they want to know their purpose or someone out there wants to know who they are, I need to say, first of all, change your mindset around it. You have to think of it as farming. It's something that you sort of plant and you're going to wait for months and you are doing consistent work around it. Because when you plant, you are irrigating, you are sort of weeding and doing all these sorts of things. And then at the end, the more time passes and you are sort of going in a given direction, the more clear it gets.
Wow. So you can't do a quiz and then find your purpose like that.
It may give you a hint. It may give you very important hints. It may point you in the right direction, but it's not going to give you all the things you need to know for it to be clear, deep-seated within your mind.
And I think that's what's fascinating about purpose, because when we think of objects, their purpose seems to be singular and static in some sense. For example, for the mic, its purpose is to capture sound and whatever. You can use it as a hammer, but that's not its purpose.
No, 100%.
But for humans, it seems like purpose is not static. Purpose is more like it's a process. It doesn't stay the same. Like your purpose when you're 5 is very different from your purpose at 20 and then at 60, right? So I guess it's very interesting like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can think about it this way. So there's two perspectives, right? Yeah. The one is that even for like take a phone, right?
Yeah.
The phone has so many different abilities, capabilities. There's so many things you could do with your phone.
Yeah.
However, most people today who are phone users don't even know half of what a phone could do.
Wow.
The reason,
that's actually true.
Yeah, the reason is because not everybody, not even the manual that we are given, most people don't read those
Nobody
things.
reads it.
Like,
I don't read it.
The whole
personally.
idea is there's a person, we used to see these TikTok videos where they say, did you know you could do this with your iPhone?
Yeah.
And you'll be like, whoa, mind blown. But those people,
imagine how much exists for a human being.
Exactly. So the difference between you and those people is because those people sat down, they sort of like learned those things, and now they know what to, there's more. Look at how much settings are in your phone. You only go to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but there's a whole list of different settings you could do. So it's an idea to say there's so many things we can do, but we don't really have so much time to study ourselves, nor do we have the guidance or the mentorship to guide us through that process. And so we only learn the things surrounding our survival. You understand?
Not our thrival.
Exactly.
Our thrival.
Most people know the things they need to survive. They know they have to eat. They may know how to cook.
Which is the same thing for the phone analogy.
Yeah, you just know enough to get by.
Yeah.
You know if you had a phone, you didn't know how to pick a call, make a call, you definitely ask for help.
Yeah.
But there's some things that you could do with your phone you are not looking for, because somehow you may not even be thinking that your phone could do those things, because it has never occurred to you that actually your phone could have that ability. So that's what it is like with humans. And talking about how your purpose at one stage could be different. That's not how purpose is. So what you have to think to know is that there's different levels of purpose, and there's things that are like sort of smaller missions within that purpose. So there are things that you need to do when you are 5. Those things may be connected to your bigger purpose, but they're not necessarily your purpose. They just probably prepare you for your purpose.
Imagine what happens when you confuse your mission for your purpose.
That's the thing, because your missions, these things are usually smaller, and everyone has a bigger purpose.
Which is usually lifetime.
Exactly. So most of the times you find out that the thing that you're supposed to do as your purpose is something that you sort of have to prepare for years. And because we don't usually have that perspective, either we don't even look for it at all, or we settle for something smaller that was
we settle for the mission.
Exactly. That was only pointing us in that direction.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so now let's dive into the 5 questions. People are curious to hear, what are these 5 life-changing questions we all need to ask ourselves?
So, of course, we've already talked about the first question, which is, who am I? Mm-hmm. Everybody asks themselves this question from different perspective, of course. Who am I? And usually the question, who am I, goes with the second question, which is, where do I come from? Mm-hmm. Now we can ask this question as, where do we come from as humanity? Mm-hmm. And of course, as Christians, we think these questions are no-brainer.
Yeah.
We know God taught us, but these questions are more deeper than we are usually ready or able to go, because the question of where am I coming from covers your cosmic origin.
Okay.
Which is like where you're coming from, as where we all coming from as humanity, but it also sort of touches all the places you've been, like your journey within within Earth, or within planet Earth.
So country, language, culture.
All of those different things. And it talks also, a little bit touches your psychological journey, the life experiences, the things basically that have made you who you are today.
Okay, interesting. So you need to sit down and answer all these questions.
It's not really so much as answer these questions as understand. So first of all, you need to have a clear sense of who you are.
Okay.
Because who you are later, it feeds into what you are here to do. Well, a good example you can have is Jesus. Jesus said, this is who I am. I came here to do. You understand? So his identity and what he came to do were almost the same thing. And look at John. When they went to him, they asked him, who are you? He didn't say his name. He said, I am the one. He's literally talking about what he came to do.
So he spoke himself in terms of his purpose.
Exactly. So ideally, in the end, your identity and purpose are one.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because like for example, within the Bible, you would find out that even when God interacts with people, he would change their name. It's because now he says, because
identity
you're with me,
is
it's
purpose.
like now this is what you are.
Okay.
Like Abraham, he became father to nations. That was his purpose, really. When you look at Abraham, of course, there's so many things he did, but he was sort of like to be this grandfather for this bigger nation that God would do so many things through. So there's that question of knowing who you are, know where you're coming from. And before I go to the next question, the idea of knowing where you're coming from is even within the 10 Commandments. Because within the 10 Commandments,
the first sentence, right?
Yeah, God says, I am the one who took you. So he's sort of like giving you perspectives, like, this is where I brought you from. So a lot of us have trouble living life to maximum, because we're always seeing life in the within a little frame or a little shorter time. We don't have a perspective of exactly where we are coming from and where we are going. Wow. So the third question now becomes, why am I here? Why? Fine, you know who you are, you know where you're coming from, then why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing here? This is a question of purpose,
which is tied to who you are. So if you know who you are, really, you should know what you're here for.
Exactly. So when you know who you are, it prepares you to know what your purpose is.
Now, are you ready for the biggest challenge of this whole episode?
Probably.
Who are you?
Again, for me personally, so my journey finding out or like asking myself this question has brought me to the place where I say, I am a man created in the image of God. So I'm really the God kind. So when you think about classifications, you know how God created everything and he said this after its own kind. For us, he created us after his own kind.
I thought we were mammals.
Unfortunately, that's science. That is probably, I don't know, 400 years old.
Which is very interesting because identity is very big. Because if you think you're a mammal or an animal, then it limits you to, in some sense, to what you can do or where you can go.
100%. So when I look at myself, I say I am the God kind. And in fact, within the Bible, God comes and even say, ye are gods. So okay. I am a God. In the sense that
why do you sound like what's this guy that says he's God? Kanye West? So you have to explain yourself.
So I am a God in the sense that like a father, like a son is like the father, right? We descend, we are the offsprings of God. So if we are the offsprings of God, what are we? We are gods.
As a son, you can't say you are the father, can you?
100%. So here's the idea. And I was told, and when I say this, I always see, people getting a little bit, it's like, no, you can't say that.
I'm just representing the population.
But here's how you should think about it.
Yeah.
As a son, you will grow to be like your father.
That's interesting.
You will never be your father. In other words, There's no day you will come up and say, Dad, I have graduated. I'm my own father now. You understand?
You can't be your
own father, but you can grow up to be like your father. You will have your own kids. You will have your own kids like your father, but you will never be your father, which means in the context of us and God, we will never grow to be our own gods. However, we are gods because we descend from God, and we will always have this sort of like father-son relationship with him eternally.
Okay, so this is very important because we are talking identity. And so my question to you is, what happens when you misidentify yourself? On a lower scale, English always fails me. What happens when you misidentify yourself? Either you see yourself as less than or you see yourself as greater than. So in this case, you misidentify yourself as, nobody, not important. You're an animal, you're a mammal, you're here because of evolution. Life is purposeless. Yeah. And then also on the other scale, like not really what you're saying, but let's exaggerate what you're saying you're saying, actually, I am God. I am not just like God, but I am God, and I am, when you want to reach a level where you say, I am my own father.
Okay.
So what happens can you contrast those two scenarios?
So the first one, Miles Monroe already talked about it. He said when the purpose of a thing is not known, it's either going to be misused, underused, or abused.
Okay, or overused. So overuse and abuse are kind of the same thing. So when you don't know who you are definitely either going to underuse or let others misuse and abuse you in one way or the other because you don't know your true value. And this is where I like one writer, she says, humans do not know how to estimate their value in a precise way. Interesting.
You understand? So most of the times, either I will think I'm better than others or I will think I'm worse than others. So it's either inferiority complex or superiority complex. You understand? But when you go to your creator, he will tell you this is who you are, and then you can be within the right frame of who you are and your value. Okay. Now the question of actually thinking you are your own father is when you completely remove the question of where am I coming from.
All right, because you think you have no origin. Okay,
you skipped it. But if you actually sit down, you honestly look to answer the question where am I coming from, then you're coming from God. And so because you are created by God, you will never be your own God. You are not self-existing. You didn't pop up just one day and then you just appeared.
Only God is self-existing in some sense.
100%. So this is why these questions are together as 5 of them, because when we skip one or the other, we get hurt in one way or the other.
Which is why you can't be God, because you're not self-existing.
100%.
Okay. Well, that clarifies a lot.
Yeah, and we can just do the other two questions.
Yes. What are the other two?
The other important question is potential, and this is kind of, also touches a little bit on the question you just asked, because potential talks about how much is possible for me. Now, as a person who was created by God, who has an identity that was given to me by God, who's coming from God, as I'm an offspring of God, born within a specific genealogy, within a specific culture and country, all the things that surround my identity at this moment, who has a specific purpose, how much can I do? So a lot of Christians and a lot of people usually don't understand how the idea of potential works.
Okay.
So God, think about it this way, right? God is like a father, and we are children. We are his children. So think about a father, right? A father usually has different rooms for his kids, and within that house that he has bought or built himself, he has sort of given power to his kids to have, sort of certain control within their respective rooms.
Yeah.
So that's how potential works. So it means that the child can do as much as they want within that room, but there's limit. You get?
Yeah.
They can, for example, they cannot do things that are going to damage the house. Sometimes they cannot even play loud music.
Or they can't bring someone in to stay with them in the house.
So potential is that we need to understand how much is possible
within the confines of
within God.
Within God.
That's how it works. So this is what potential is, and this is even what faith is. Faith outside of God is presumption.
Wow, we say that together.
So
we must connect at a deeper level.
Potential works. So a lot of people have not attempted things because they don't know that it's possible within God.
Yeah.
So when you know who you are, you know where you're coming from, you know why you are here, it's very important that you know how much you can do, because knowing, like, the understanding you have about how much you can do is going to affect how well you do what you came to do.
Wow. And I think you did a recent video. You guys should go watch it. It's called The Surprising Link Between Your Thoughts and Your Life.
Yeah.
And I think the thumbnail for that was you can't grow bigger or greater than your thinking or your thoughts.
Exactly. So I could actually tell you who you are
based on
where
thoughts.
You're coming from, and tell you what you came here to do. But if you don't believe you can, you are still going to be the same. And this we see. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? When God came to people and he taught them what they were supposed to do, he had to deal a little bit with this question. Let me give you examples.
Yeah.
So for example, Moses, right? He came to him, he taught him what exactly was supposed to, like, this was straight, no questions about it, was very clear as day. But do you know what his problem was? He said,
what are they
I'm not
say?
Really good at talking,
Oh, right. That.
It's like, talking is not really my thing. That was a statement saying, I would like to do this, but I don't think I can.
Yeah. Because
he doesn't understand how much is possible within
the confines of God. Yeah.
And this is the same thing that happened with Jeremiah, where he came and he said, I'm a child. In other words, he's saying, as a child, I think I don't qualify to do what you're asking me to do. But God is saying to him, do not say I am a child. So in other words, change how you think.
Wow. So do not say I can't, do not say I'm not able, do not say it's impossible. Because clearly in God's confines it is possible.
Exactly. Of course, I'm not like a motivational speaker who tell you can do it. You can do anything you put. No. You can do certain things within the limitations of God, but trust me, it is a lot. It is a lot. It is
it is a billion times more than you are doing right now.
100%. I mean, think about people who have touched so many lives, and they have, like, we are doing, like, today our life has changed because of those people. Now, within their capacities, they did something that can impact millions and millions and millions, and even their legacy lives today.
Yeah.
So I think when you've known who you are, where you're coming from and what you can do, you need to sort of understand how much you can do. And then the last and important question becomes, where am I going? And this is a question about destiny. So, we have an idea. We know this, that nobody lives forever. Yeah. And the Bible tells us that we are here for a determined amount of time. So the idea becomes, you have to have a clear sense of where you're going. That is also going to affect how you live your life.
Yeah, true.
So these are the questions that every human being must sit down, understand it. So it's not a luxury to understand these things. It is necessity because it affects your life. So what you do today, how you live, where you are, is dependent upon what you think about these things. Now, a lot of people may say, I don't even think about those questions, bro. But the whole idea is, it's subconsciously you think about it.
Yeah, because
subconsciously there's a person you think you are.
Yeah, of course.
And also subconsciously there's a place you think you're going after all this ends.
Because if you really take away these things, then life cannot exist.
Yeah.
I guess it's the psychological framework of being.
Exactly. And of course, when we say these 5 questions, there are other questions that we ask ourselves, but those questions usually surround
these 5.
They surround these 5, and they sort of like come under one of those other questions. So that's the idea. Okay.
So I'm sure people are excited about IdentiPurpose and what you're going to do. So what can people expect from IdentiPurpose podcast and platform?
So, like I said, I really had a hard time, going through these questions. It wasn't an easy experience for me.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is, I want to make it easy for people.
Okay.
But of course, when I say easy,
you don't mean lazy.
I mean easier than it was for me.
Oh, I see.
And so what to expect is, this will be a space where we are going to talk about all the things, right, that concerns this question. And when I say all the things, I say all the things that I've been able to learn. And I'm still a student. I'm still learning. I'm still sort of trying to get more clarity. Mm-hmm. Of course, I can say that today I have more clarity than I had before. It's like,
in terms of percentage, how much clarity do you have compared to before?
Oh my God. So when I started, it was like 0. Everything was dark. To be honest, like I didn't know.
Can you tell us more about that? Or like how was the experience of 0%?
I've always been a Christian, and I think when I got here, when I first came to Canada, I didn't know what to do. It felt like I was just going through cycles and motion. I'm going to church and coming back, and I literally was emotional when I was praying and asking God, like, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Tell me what your will is. Yeah. I was actually a little bit mad. I said, why can't you make this easy? Just come to me, tell me what you want me to do, and then I will do it. You understand? Of course, I understand why, God didn't show up, because there's a lot more that goes into it. But I'm trying to say, when I started, I had no idea. And so I think right now, I can say I have like maybe about 60-70% clarity on what I'm supposed to do. What I was
from 0 to 70. In how long? Okay, never mind. We don't want to reveal too much, but that's quite interesting. So you'll be doing weekly podcasts and sharing videos in between, I suppose.
Yeah. So of course, this podcast is sort of like a way to start, but this is a big thing for me, and I'm going to be creating different things. Eventually, I'm looking at an app that will sort of make the whole journey easy, where you go into it and you go through the whole journey with the support that's needed. So we'll talk more about that. But the idea is, I want to be the kind of person you can have this conversation with, right? Because I know in your space, around you may not have people who you can have this conversation with, but we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about your identity, we'll talk about your purpose. And we're not just talking about this as ideas. And this is one problem I had, because I read a lot of books, and a lot of motivation speakers will tell you, like, find what your passion is. But the question becomes, how do I do that? Mm-hmm. How on earth do I find what my passion is? A lot of my friends that I've actually asked the question, what are you passionate? They're like, what do you mean?
Food.
Like, what am I? They say sleep. But so the whole idea becomes,
your purpose is to sleep.
No, the whole idea becomes, I don't want to talk about these big ideas in terms of like, this is what this is, but more like, let's go through it. What does it actually practically look like to pursue identity and finding out what your identity is and where you're coming from, touching on all the aspects. And of course, I'm also sort of a student, so whatever I learn, I'll be adding to this. So this is what people can expect as far as IdentiPurpose podcast is concerned.
Amazing. So this was a special episode to kind of explain what IdentiPurpose is about. But when can people expect the first video, the first official video or series of whatever it is that you're doing?
So again, we're starting, like, we'll be posting every Sunday.
Every Sunday, okay.
Yeah.
So next Sunday is the first video, guys. Make sure you're ready for it. If it's not, maybe it's gonna be this video. Who knows? No, this video will be before that. Okay. All right. So Sam, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any other final thoughts you want to add, or something you want to say to the IdentiPurpose community? Now you're part of this community. If you're serious about finding your identity and purpose, then welcome to the IdentiPurpose community.
So I think this is one of the things that I learned recently. I mean, some of you may have read, Robert Greene books, and the most popular is 48 Laws.
I never read that book.
48 Laws of Power. There's laws of human nature, but there's another one called Mastery.
I should read, right? Should I read those books? Do you recommend?
Well, personally, I wouldn't recommend.
Why is that? I thought these were good books about purpose.
Again, here's the biggest thing, with a lot of self-help books. I personally have read a lot of self-help books, and self-help books, you have to be careful, because one of the challenges I've had with a lot of people who talk about a lot of crucial topics surrounding humanity is they sort of remove God out of the picture. And it becomes hard. How can you define a human being outside of God? How can you even start to talk about his purpose outside of God?
It's like talking about Shure mic without the Shure company, whatever they are called. Or talking about a MacBook Pro without Apple.
Yeah, it's something that becomes almost like self-defeating in the end, because you are trying to sort of talk about something without acknowledging the place where it was created, made, and where all the knowledge about that thing comes from.
Yeah.
But the reason why I was talking about that is because what you will find out is that things have changed now. A long time ago, it was easy for people to survive, and people sort of had a general sense of direction, because there were communities were together, cultural. There was no global village. Things were not as confusing as they are today.
Yeah.
And also another thing that has changed is we are in an economy-run world where everything is all about money.
Yeah.
And so most of us are sort of forced to work hard. But really what we are working hard for is survival.
Not really purpose.
Exactly. So for anyone to be happy in these days, it requires a lot more effort in some sense than maybe our ancestors are needed.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest thing is you need to know who you are, and you sort of need to gain mastery at something. This is the only way you can contribute to the world in a significant way.
So I guess the way I see it, you need to live within your purpose.
100%. So,
and that's the mastery I think you're referring to.
100%. So purpose, you need to understand who you are. You need to know your purpose. You need to gain mastery over it. That's the only way you will be truly fulfilled.
Yeah.
And that's the only other way you'll be able to impact the world.
That's right.
In a significant way. So thinking about identity and purpose in these 5 questions, I want you to know that this is not something that it's sort of like, it's nice to do, but it's actually necessary. You have to meet yourself, and we have to meet you before you die. You understand? So there are so many things that you need to do before you die. But some of those things, even if someone actually tells you now, you'll think they are crazy. Why? Because it's a process, it's a journey. And one important thing I want to say is, like, remember in the Bible when God called Abraham, he sort of asked him to take a journey.
Yeah.
And that's what it is like finding your purpose. It's an emotional journey. It's an intellectual journey. It's a paradigm shift. Some of it may require you to sort of move away from where you are, the people around you. You may even have to sort of move away from your family. So I just want
move away from yourself.
Exactly. So this is, I want you to have an idea of the sacrifice, the process, because a lot of people come and say they want to know who they are. I'm like, you don't actually want to, because you are not ready.
Well, actually, like, thinking of Abraham, he could never have found himself if he stayed.
Yeah, God didn't come to him and tell him right there, right then, like, this is what. No, there are so many things that he found out later on the journey, and even way later, many years after he had already left where he was.
Wow. So Sam, since it looks like you still want to keep going, there's a formula in Genesis. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. It's Genesis 1:28. It says, "And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the fish, etc., etc." So the formula is called be, do, have. And they say it has to be in that order. So in order for you to do what you are called to do, you need to first become the person who can do it. And for you to have what you want, you need to do certain things. But for most of us, we just want to have.
That's the biggest issue, and I have found out even in my own personal life, I actually didn't want to change. I didn't want to become anything different. I just wanted to have things, that can make my life different. And I think at first, when I sort of embraced the idea that I needed to change, I didn't like it. Because change, if you understand the scope of the amount of change you need, it's a lot, and it's a little bit painful. It's a little bit painful. So it's not something that anyone would welcome, and
it's not comfortable.
This is why, as much as I'm doing this, and I don't actually think everyone will find out what their purpose is.
Okay.
I don't think everyone will find out who they truly are.
Well,
because not everyone is willing to sacrifice what it requires. Not everyone is even interested in doing or living their purpose, unfortunately.
Wow. That's sad.
So when I was...
But for those who are watching, we can assure you that you find your purpose if you follow the 5 questions.
No, because at first I was like, everybody needs to do this. But there's a lot of costs involved. It's almost like saying everybody should have a nice house and have a beautiful car and have a beautiful life. Or
be rich. Not everybody is rich because of the cost.
Yeah, but it requires sacrifice, you understand? Yeah. So I think, like you say, before we can do certain things, we have to sort of have this consciousness.
Like, the identity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Identity is actually, on a serious note, I think identity is what differentiates those who are successful and not. Because those who are successful know themselves intimately than those who, if you don't know yourself, you can't really do anything useful.
And also in the absence of knowing. So here's the thing. So let's say you have money, but you're not a millionaire. The money controls you.
True, because you don't know who you are.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
The people who spend more time with the money is not the millionaires themselves. Do you know that?
What do you mean?
Like the people who work at the banks, they are not the millionaires themselves most of the times.
Right.
And even the people who spend time, sometimes taking care of the cars or the things for the rich, they are not the rich themselves. So I'm trying to say that it's not being around something or having that makes you.
It's being.
Exactly. Because when you have that thing and you are not, that thing controls you.
Or it leaves you.
Yeah. It's
like when you get a lottery of, let's say, $1 billion, which is not possible, $10,000, let's say. if you're not the person who can manage the money is gonna go where it came from.
100%. And this is why I like Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn says, if you're not a millionaire and for some reason you are given $1 million, that money will leave you unless you quickly learn how to be a millionaire.
That's so good. So I guess what we're saying then is the focus of this podcast is not so much the doing and the having, but making sure people become.
Of
find
course,
themselves
of course.
who they are.
But this is not just a space to be theoretical. Every time,
but being is personal and real.
Yeah, and,
right?
and this is where most people fail to understand Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Christianity is a lot of action. Full stop. But this is action because you are.
The be do have formula again.
Exactly. So why are you living a righteous life? Because you are righteous. You are not becoming righteous because you are trying to do all these righteous acts.
Isn't it John 1:12 that says, unto them that believed him, he gave power to become the sons of God.
Exactly. So this is the whole idea about, like, even for me, right? When I found out, like, oh, sure. At first, it was very emotional for me, like, wait a moment. So this is who I am. But I had to sort of go through the process to embrace who I am.
Embrace who you are.
And it has been hard because a lot of people around me don't believe that. Even now, I'm still going through the process because, every day reminding myself. So when the Bible says I'm a God, most of us are arguing. Even the verse you just said, he is like, really? We don't actually see ourselves that way. We see ourselves as subjects of God. You understand? So it's a struggle between fully embracing that which we are and trying to do things to chase that which we think we should be. You understand? Because we are doing all these things because we think it's going to make us this, it's going to make us that. And it becomes a very hard journey. It's mostly a painful journey because it's like you're trying to get this, but it's not coming.
Yeah.
Because you are not that thing. Even Christianity, right? Are you a righteous person? Are you truly a righteous person? Do you have righteous thoughts? What does the Bible say? Is a righteous man. The thoughts of a righteous man are right. What does that mean? It means if you are righteous, your thoughts will be right. Your thoughts are not, you cannot become righteous by having right thoughts. But if you are righteous, your thoughts will be right. And it's what like that truly means is like, your proof that you are righteous is not just because you are doing those right things. It's because it's your consciousness. It's how you think.
And I think this is the analogy of the seed and the fruit.
Yeah.
That I think identity and purpose is the seed, and whatever we become and have is the fruit.
100%.
And if we can just focus on becoming the seed, then the fruit is just obvious.
Yeah, so I'm excited, for us to go on this journey, to be able to have a conversation, to talk, because I think there's nothing beautiful. And I mean, to be honest, there's still so many things to learn, but I just wish everybody could feel how I feel now. Just having that clear sense.
Clarity?
It's like freedom when you know exactly what you're supposed to do. And you are not like doubting. It's like when you are sitting here doing that thing, this is where you're supposed to be.
Actually, I never asked this question and we are almost done. What is your purpose, sir?
So again, one thing you'll learn about purpose is that there's
stages.
There's a shared purpose that we all have as human beings.
I want to know yours.
But my specific purpose, especially within this context, is to help people. So it's like reconnecting.
So wait, purpose depends on context too.
Well, it does in a way.
It adapts to context. Okay, go ahead.
It does in a way, right?
Sure.
So my purpose is to help people figure out what their purpose is, and it's sort of reconnecting them with who they truly are.
Why did I have a sense that you're gonna say that? So my purpose is to help you find your purpose.
Exactly, and think about it. It's not everyone's purpose to do that.
True, because most of people can't find their purpose.
Think about your purpose.
My purpose?
Yeah.
to interview you about
No.
what your purpose
generally,
is.
like as a person, what is your purpose?
You want me to answer that?
Do you know
I
what
thought
it
I was
is?
the one who's interviewing you.
No, I'm just curious though.
So if you want to know my purpose, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Neo the Greatest.
No, but what is your purpose?
Go, you'll see my purpose there.
No, but James, all I'm trying to say is that everyone has a different, like for me, ever since I've always had this sense. Every time I, meet people, I've always wanted to fix people's problems, but it wasn't like, oh, you don't have this. No, it's like giving a person that sense of wholeness, a sense of direction.
Yeah.
And nothing will do that for you as knowing, being deep seated in that knowledge of who you truly are and what you're supposed to do. That will make your life very easy. Yeah. Because like for me now, I know my life is going to be very easy because I know I'm not going to sit, in the night like, oh, I don't know what to do, because the more and more I go, the more and more clear it even gets.
Yeah.
Well,
this was amazing conversation. Thank you, Sam, for inviting me to interview you, and looking forward to future episodes and to figuring out purpose and identity. And please share this video with your family, all those confused friends that you have that don't know what their purpose is. This is going to be helpful. And thank you for being here. Please make sure you subscribe to this video. Like I said, share with your friends. Engage. So if you have any question, don't keep it in your mind. Like, share it, write the comments on YouTube. Don't feel shy. Yeah, it's gonna help a lot. It's gonna help you. It's gonna help everybody. It's to our purpose.
Oh, that's funny.